Rick Drasin. Welcome to Rick's Corner. I have a friend of mine out here from Atlanta, Georgia, Ray Lloyd, who was Glacier with WCW how many years ago?
Gosh, let's see, up till 01 until WWE bought us out. So as of right now, 11 years ago. That was when I left. Yeah.
And you're still wrestling?
Still wrestling, still make appearances all over the country, all over the world actually as Glacier. I did a show in Germany not too long ago. So yeah, still nice.
Can I ask you something really quick? Since you're Glacier, how come you can't cool off this room?
I'm doing my best. Okay. It's not working.
All right. Now we went down to Gold this morning and we walked around and met people. We had lunch at the firehouse. We've been talking about a lot of things. And I want to talk a little bit about wrestling because all of you write in and talk to me about you want to be a wrestler, you're the next superstar. And we both agree on the same thing, that this just doesn't happen overnight. It's just not something that happens overnight. You've got to put your time in. And that means you've got to work at it. And don't you think that building your body is a big part of it?
Absolutely, Rick. I mean, it's one of those things where they go hand in hand. I mean, wrestling training and training your body, there's not one without the other. You got to have it. I mean, it's just absolutely essential.
And we also talked about kids, you guys that write to me, and you have your finishing move and your entry music and your fancy moves off the top rope. And we both agreed and decided that that's not what's most important.
No, it's not. I mean, it's like I tell anybody, just like it was told to me when I first broke in. You go to any Major League Baseball stadium, you watch before the game, you see these guys getting paid millions of dollars, taking ground balls, taking batting practice, doing the basics. Still, at this point in their career, you go to a pregame NBA game, you see the guys shooting around, doing layups, doing the basics over and over and over. So why shouldn't it be the same way in our profession? Learn the basics, learn them inside and out, do them over and over and over until you can do them with your eyes closed. That's where it starts.
And I think selling is another big factor.
Oh, yeah, and it's one of those things in our business that's really kind of been almost ruined because it's been so overdone or not done properly. And I think when you look at whatever you're going to sell in the ring, think about, for the most part, the good way to start is think about how you would sell that in reality. If someone punched you in the face, how would you sell that? I mean, and then you could, and of course you structure a little bit more for what we do in the ring, but it's not too far away from what you would do in real life. You just take it and you add a little bit more to it, to make it so it's doable for the audience to perceive what you're really trying to register.
Well, you said something important on the way over here, and I heard this also. Les Thatcher had said this, and other people have said that. You're not going to be remembered by all the fancy moves you do. It's going to be remembered by your character and something within your personality that sells.
Right.
And how you run that match, and it could be just simple stuff.
Right. It's the thing that was told to me a long time ago is fans or people in general will forget specifically what you might have said or what you might have done, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. And I've been able to experience some of that in my career, and I can honestly tell you, when you generate an emotion out of an audience that you wanted to generate it from that audience, and you get that exact response back, it's such an unbelievable feeling on my end, and I know on the end of the fans. So that's what will make them want to buy another ticket to come back, is that feeling that we are able to give them in the ring and make them feel emotionally part of what's going on in the ring. You've got to bring them into the ring emotionally. People can sit at home and watch wrestling on TV all day long and watch it's anywhere on any channel almost these days. But people, when they buy a ticket to come to a match, they make this unconscious agreement with the wrestlers that they want to be emotionally brought into that ring. They want to be able to feel like they're somehow a part of helping that good guy win, or doing something to help that bad guy get distracted to where he'll get rolled up and the good guy will get the pin. So that's one thing as a wrestler. Remember, the fans are there and they want to be a part of what you're doing. So don't leave them out, because it's a vital mistake if you do.
That's very well put. It's connecting with the audience. It's getting them emotionally involved in you, and they're not going to get involved when they see you do all these different moves off the top rope. All that is watching a gymnastics match, pretty much.
Yeah.
There's nothing to bring their emotions out, because they haven't got any sympathy for the face, and they're not hating the heel because he's not doing anything to get heat out of it.
Right.
So when you go to a wrestling school or you want to become a wrestler, take this into consideration. It's not all the fancy things you're going to do that are going to put you over. It's just not going to be it. You can go out and do a bear hug for 40 minutes, and if it's done right, you can win them over.
Yeah, and this is something I always say too, is that you want the audience to make an investment in you, the wrestler, emotionally, no matter who you are in that ring. And it's kind of an analogy to use there is like, say if you went to the dollar store and you bought a cheap $1 vase and you brought it home and you put it on the table, and someone knocked that vase off and broke it. You're not out much. You didn't invest much. You invested $1, and it's probably not going to upset you that much. But what if you go to a pottery class and you make this vase? You put all this time into it. You sculpt it. You let them, they put it in the kiln. It hardens up, and then you paint it. You put all this time in it. You invest all this into it, and then somebody comes by and bumps that, and knocks it off your table, and shatters it. Which one do you think you'll get more upset about?
Exactly.
The one you invested more emotion into. And that's what we as wrestlers, that's what our job is to help the audience invest that emotion into the match.
Right. That's exactly right. You know, and the other thing we were talking about was punches, and you see these guys stomping both feet when they punch. You wouldn't stomp on the ground and punch somebody in the street. You wouldn't even think about your feet. And a lot of you guys that want to come here and train with me, and by the way, I do have a wrestling school here in Sherman Oaks, California, because you ask me all the time where I am. And yes, it's affordable, and yes, I can train you from the ages 12 up. Just Google me. Go to rickdrasin.com or rickscorner.com. You'll find it. But I want you to understand that we're going to teach you old school style. You're going to learn how we did it back in the day, and there is a call for that. We were just talking about that too. Yeah. WWE is what you watch, but that's not the standard in wrestling. They have a certain format they run for television and for entertainment, so they can market products. They're marketing products. What you're going to do when you become a wrestler is you're going to do indie shows, probably for many, many years before you even get a chance to WWE, like the movie The Wrestler.
Right.
And you're going to go to little arenas like for example, a Boys and Girls Club or a Veterans Hall, and you'll run into maybe 100 people in the audience, or 50 or maybe 200. This is where you'll learn to work in front of an audience, and this is where you test out how to get them emotionally charged to watch you. And don't discount it. It's not going to be all the things you do. You got to get all your moves in for a match. It's just what you put in that's basic that gets them charged out of their seats, not unlike a date.
I love this.
We talked about this as well. You call your match as you feel it, and you feel the audience. You don't sit in the dressing room and tell, I'm going to do a drop kick, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. You wouldn't do this on a date saying, I'm going to kiss you, I'm going to grab your ass. You're just not going to do stuff like this. You're going to call that date as you see it. You might start from the ground up, the middle, or the bottom up, and let it go where it goes. You're not going to tell the girl what you're going to do, and you're not going to tell your opponent in the ring what you're going to do, because the fans may not buy it.
Right, right, and one thing I always say when I do my seminars is something that was told to me a long time ago is that people who call their matches all in the locker room, lay everything out, whether they realize it or not, they're probably afraid to go out there and try to just feed off what the crowd gives them and call it in the ring, and then that's a normal reaction. I understand that, but the bottom line is the only way to get over that fear. It's like if you have a fear of jumping in the water and trying to learn how to swim, is to get in the water and swim. Right. You got to go out there and you got to do it. And here's the great thing: if you're doing these smaller indie shows, for the most part, they're not going to remember if you mess up. They're really not. So it's not do or die. But you can't go out there and call a match in the ring unless you go out there and you jump into the water and do it. You can't. You can do it in a wrestling school all you want, but there's a big difference to being out there in front of a live audience and having to make an audible on the fly. Right then, right there, with everybody staring at you. But once you do it, and I speak from experience, and I know Rick does too, is once you do that, it is the biggest thrill in the world to be able to go out there and just let the match unfold as you see fit. Because one, it's really almost like playtime then. You get to really have a good time out there. You're not having to try to remember all this stuff and you're not only trying to remember your part, you're trying to remember the other guy's part and all that. I mean, that's a lot for anybody to do. So this way you just feel what the audience gives you and you go with it, and it's so much more fun. So I encourage you, if you're out there now, and I know the norm is to go out there and call your match in the locker room, just try to find somebody who's willing to do a match with you. And you guys go out there, and it may not be pretty at first. That's okay. You know what? It's designed that way because it's an art form. It takes some practice to do it right. But if you do it over and over, I promise you'll put yourself in that special category of people who do it, and all of a sudden you'll turn around, you'll realize why you're having so much more fun. These other guys are still stressed out, and their matches aren't looking as good because everything just looks like it's choreographed, which is not entertaining for the most part. It really isn't.
No, it's not. And going back to old school, I remember I worked with some of the seasoned wrestlers, and I'd be nervous myself. I'd go in and I'd say, "What is it you want to do? Don't worry about it, kid. We'll call it when we get out there." Okay, but what do you want to do? Don't worry about it. We'll call it when we get out there. And 99% of the time back in those days, you had separate dressing rooms. You had the heels on one side, faces on the other. So you couldn't even talk to your opponent.
Right.
There's no way you could work a match out.
No.
The referee would go to both dressing rooms. What's your finish? That's all they wanted to know.
Yeah.
And back then, a finish could have been a drop kick.
Yeah.
Or a body slam.
Yeah.
We've seen it all the time. But it worked, and people bought it. And so that's how it works. And the other thing that we didn't talk about today, which I want to bring into, is the referee is a big part of that match.
Oh. It's vital.
Yeah, you have to involve that third person. He's the one that makes the match work. If you're a heel, you hide things from him, you get sneaky, you fight with him, you involve him and with you, he involves with the audience, the face defends himself, and the crowd goes nuts. You can just carry that for as long as you want to carry it and not even take a bump and have a good match.
Oh yeah, and you know, I still go out and do independent wrestling shows. I have a few coming up in the next month, and I can honestly tell you, when I walk into the locker room and I find out who my referee is going to be for that match, I automatically either get excited about what we can do in the match, or I get kind of a little bit depressed, because if it's a young referee who I know doesn't know a lot what they're doing, I know I'm going to have to limit what I can do now. But if it's a veteran referee that I know and I know what he can do or she can do, all of a sudden now all these possibilities open up to what I know we will be able to do, what we normally wouldn't be able to do. I mean, the referee is definitely a vital
the referee
part.
Can actually guide you.
Oh, yeah.
I worked here with Johnny Red Shoes Dugan, who was a very well-known referee, very, very good friend of Gene LaBelle and myself, and Johnny was a wrestler as well. But he knew where to go in the ring. He would tell me, because I was new, crawl between my legs, go over and hit him, time in the ropes, do this and do that. He would direct me. Yeah. And then I realized where he was going with it and the psychology that he had behind it, because it made a huge difference.
Oh, yeah, and another great thing that a good experienced referee will be able to do for you is guide you through a match when maybe, say, if you're not in a position, which in most house shows, you'll be in a position where you may not be able to see the other matches.
Right.
If you've got a good veteran referee, like, for example, I was doing a match with Brad Armstrong, which we were talking about earlier today. Brad's probably one of the most underappreciated wrestlers, I think, in the wrestling business over the last probably 25 years. Just an unbelievable talent. But we actually were doing a wrestling match, and we had a veteran referee who was very well respected by us and everybody else. And we started into a spot that he had seen done in 2 matches before ours. And he actually indicated to us that spot had been done already.
Oh,
and so we were able to, once again, switch gears and go a different way, because it was a pretty elaborate spot, pretty one of those spots where you really involve the crowd. It was one, if we would have done it the second time, people would have been like, we already saw that.
Yeah,
so when you have a referee who's at that level, can really just change the whole structure of the match and keep it going on course, as opposed to letting it veer off into a way that none of us would want it to go.
All right, so the bottom line is it's a lot more in detail learning how to wrestle than you think.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of having your entry music and your finishing move and knowing what you're going to do off the top rope. There is so much emotion involved. There's so much selling that goes in character. They're from a headlock to a hammerlock to a body slam to the rope. Your character can't lose in between. You have to have that character on all the time. Right. And you got to be able to sell what's being done to you in order to get the crowd behind you. If you don't sell it, it doesn't mean anything. Like what I was just saying, I just saw Del Rio give Orton a suplex off the top rope, and he kicked out on 2. That would kill you.
Oh, yeah. And it probably did. That's the thing about it.
I mean, so don't set WWE as your standard for watching to learn how to wrestle, because it's not where you're going to learn anything. If you watch it week after week, you see the same moves over and over and over and over. It's commercialized to sell product, and that's basically it. And you had also said if you take WWE to a house show where it's not televised, you'll see a different match.
Oh, definitely. And even if you're a WWE superstar, 80% of the matches you do are going to be non-televised house show matches.
Right.
And the pace for that match is typically a lot different than a TV match.
Right.
And so even those guys you're watching every night, they don't do that same match of that type of caliber when they're at a house show, which is the majority of the matches they do. And that's unfortunate. So if there's any advice I would give you, is try to maybe go see a match at that level, a WWE house match, just so you can see the difference in the pacing of the match, if nothing else. But also on top of that is the one thing that we talked about a lot of stuff earlier today that I want to make sure that I get in, while we're doing this, is the thing that means probably some of the most important advice I can give anybody out there is about why you're doing this. Why do you want to become a pro wrestler? And you got to be honest with yourself, because most people, it's about the fame and the fortune. And I'm not saying that's not okay to want to be rich and famous from wrestling. That's okay. But the bottom line is, and someone said this a long time ago, and I've always remembered it, it's okay to want the fame and the fortune. You just can't want that first.
Yeah.
It has to be your passion. Just like if you're an artist or a musician or anything else, you got to have the passion first. And then if you're good enough, if you're in that small percentage that's good enough to make it at a top level, then all that stuff will fall into place.
Yeah.
It really will.
Johnny Mae Young, when she trained me, she said to me, wrestling's a labor of love.
Yeah.
And I wasn't quite sure what she meant, and then I realized when I got the paycheck.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I did get paid, and I was telling Ray I got paid well back in the 70s. I mean, 30, 40 bucks a night in the 70s was a lot of money.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate to be able to get in the business then and get that. But today, a lot of guys don't get paid to do any matches. Some of them, they'll ask you to pay them to be on the card, like rock and roll bands who pay at clubs to be seen.
Sure, yeah.
That happens a lot. And if you have the passion for it, just go for the passion. Eventually, you'll make money doing it. I don't know that you'll ever become a WWE superstar. You can have that goal in your mind, and it's good to have goals and have a drive to focus towards that. But don't be disappointed with doing the indies, because the indies are fun.
Right. And if it's not fun to you, then just stop before you get any further, because the odds are, and this is just the brass tacks of it, odds are anybody who breaks into the wrestling business, 90% of those people, maybe even higher, are never ever going to make a living full time doing this, which means getting into WWE or Total Nonstop Action or touring Japan or whatever. 90%. So if you're okay with those odds and you still want to go forward with it, then by all means go for it, chase your dream, but just realize that that it's your long shot, no matter, I don't care how much talent you have or whatever, because that's just the wrestling business. And the other thing that I just want to be able to make sure I get in is that, and once again, it was something that we were talking about earlier today, is that, you know, if this is not your passion, if it's not something that you truly want to do, that's okay too. And you may not find that out until later on, but don't get into it for the money right off the bat. Don't get into it for the fame, because I use myself as a personal example, because I know most of you are watching this going, oh, it's easy for you to say. You built a big name, and some people think I broke into wrestling when I became Glacier. I was amazed how many people, my mentor Dusty Rhodes, who I didn't meet till I went to WCW, he thought that somehow Eric Bischoff found me somewhere, and all of a sudden I got trained to wrestle. No, that's not true. 9 years to the month of April. I broke in April 87. April of 96 is when I started with WCW. 9 years later. And in those 9 years, minus the few tours I've made to Japan, in those 9 years, the highest payoff I ever had in the States wrestling, God's honest truth, was $75 in those 9 years.
Yeah.
But I stuck with it because I believed in what I was doing, and I loved what I was doing. And so, and I remember thinking about 6 months before I got my break, you know what, it's probably not going to happen for me, I guess. You know, I'm almost 10 years in, and maybe my ship's already sailed, I don't know. But you know what, I'm okay with that, because it's been a great run, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. But you know what, as luck would have it, it did work out for me.
Yeah.
But my message is, do this for the love of it, and if it's meant to be, it'll be. And if it's not, you got to be okay with that.
And if your ship already sailed, you could have gone to the airport and caught up with it.
Yeah, these days, yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very good advice. Keep your day job, because you're going to have money. You have to have money, and training costs money. And I charge a minimal amount here to train. Some schools are very expensive. Make sure you search out to make sure you get people who know how to train you, because there's a lot of young guys who say they're trainers who've never been in the ring. I mean, as far as pros, they haven't been seasoned wrestlers like Ray and I, and they don't know the ins and outs. They don't know the psychology of it. They'll teach you the moves, but it doesn't mean anything. They'll teach you to drive a car, but not how to take that car into a track and really speed with it. So be sure to look out for that. My school's in Sherman Oaks, California. Ray's might be moving out here. I'll have him help me with the school if we do. I don't know if there's schools near you. You guys ask me all the time. I don't really know. You're just going to have to search around and find one, or go to a local indie match and ask the guys where they train. That's the best you can probably do.
Yeah.
So with that, we're going to close. I want to let them know where they can find you. You have a website?
You know what? I'm getting ready to finally get a website up and running. But I'm on Facebook, and you can find me on Facebook. I actually have a fan page. It's just Glacier Ray Lloyd, if you just look for that. And also, you can find me on Facebook if you just look for Ray Lloyd in Atlanta, Georgia. But yeah, I'm getting ready to get I actually have a blog up, which is probably one thing that I started actually after talking to Rick about everything that he puts out. I started doing something as a labor of love myself, and it's you can go to dreamsinthering.com, and it's a blog where I put some video tips up there as well, really kind of piggybacking off everything Rick says, just to kind of reinforce the fact that there are certain things steps that you have to do to try to even put yourself in even the slim chance of being successful in this business. But it's all about how do you conduct yourself as a professional, and just by learning how to do those things, which I know Rick teaches as well, that'll put you in a category that's a small group as well, because most people these days don't even know how to act as a professional. And you know, the first part of our title is professional, not just wrestler, professional wrestler.
Right.
And that doesn't mean just what you do in the ring; it means how you carry yourself outside of the ring. So yeah, dreamsinthering.com. It's a blog. I put a lot of inspirational quotes up there. I put some videos up there, just giving some tips about how to be a better professional in the business.
And you're also not a professional wrestler like some of these guys put on Facebook after training for 6 weeks. I'm a professional wrestler. No, you're not. You're not a professional until you get paid, make a living, and that's how you pay your bills. That means profession. This is what I do for a profession. I get paid to do this. I pay my bills with that income. Otherwise, you're just a pro wrestler in training.
Right.
So take that to the bank.
And yeah, and I was going to say that I honestly never felt comfortable calling myself a professional wrestler until I was doing it full time, making a full time living doing it. And that's just me personally, but that's the God's honest truth. That was way before I ever met Rick.
Right. So you can find me on rickdrasin.com. That's RICDRASIN.com. Of course, you watch Rick's Corner. I have books on how to promote a wrestling school and how to find a wrestling school, or how to promote shows and how to find a wrestling school, what to look for. Like I said, I'm in Sherman Oaks, California. If you want to train with me, you need to live here. You guys write me from all over. I want to train, but you live somewhere in Switzerland or Idaho or somewhere. It's impossible. I'm 11 years old. Parents aren't going to send you here to train as a pro wrestler at 11 years old. It's not going to happen. But we do have the facility here to do it, and if you want to come and train with me, we train on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and you'll have fun doing it. In the meantime, stay tuned for more Rick's Corner, because I'm going to have more celebrities on. Ray's doing AfterBuzz TV with me this Sunday. Yeah. You can catch us on streaming video at 3:30 California time, AfterBuzzTV.com, where we'll be doing the reviews on SmackDown After Show, and then we'll do old school wrestling, which will bring you back into the world that we came from.
Yes.
And thank you for watching Rick's Corner. Thank you, Ray.
Oh, thank you, Rick. It was good stuff.
It's very good.
Yeah, good stuff.